Hello, everyone, and welcome to Pro Wrestling Inside and Out. We're going to be talking on this episode. We're going to be talking Southern Championship Wrestling, which was a wrestling company ran by Jerry Blackwell, and we're going to be talking about Pro Wrestling USA. I think we know what happened to Pro Wrestling USA. It didn't work out too well for anyone, for that matter. Let's go ahead and let's talk about Southern Championship Wrestling. Jerry Blackwell, tremendous big man wrestler. When they said he was from Stone Mountain, Georgia, that's where Jerry Blackwell lived, in Stone Mountain, Georgia. It was a really good wrestling promotion. And Jack, I think we'll go ahead and start and tell a little bit about Southern Championship Wrestling.
Southern Championship Wrestling was established in Georgia by Jerry Blackwell in early 1988. Blackwell, then a star in the American Wrestling Association, or AWA, had run shows under the AWA Georgia banner the previous year using talent from the AWA. One of its biggest shows was held at the Cobb Civic Center in Marietta and was headlined by Blackwell, Wahoo McDaniel, Sergeant Slaughter, the Iron Sheik, Kurt Hennig, Jerry the King Lawler, the original Midnight Express, Dennis Condrey, and Randy Rose. Condrey and Rose were scheduled to appear in SCW as the AWA World Tag Team Champions. However, the angle was dropped when Condrey was unable to appear. His place was taken by Comrade Busick and was introduced by their manager, Paul E. Dangerously, as Ravishing Randy and Comrade Busick, the substitute original Midnight Express. Blackwell eventually began promoting on a full-time basis with involvement from Joe Pedicino and others. The first events and TV tapings were held in January of 1988. The second TV taping, January 24th, was headlined by Bruiser Brody and drew 630 fans. Matches from these shows were first shown on a weekly syndicated TV program, Southern Championship Wrestling from Georgia, which aired live on certain TV stations.
All right, it's my time. Now it comes up with the all-knowing David Meltzer of the Wrestling Observer, called these first tapings pretty lively and fun to watch indie show, and has had better caliber of wrestling than most indies. The first Southern Heavyweight Champion, gentleman Chris Adams, won the championship by defeating Buck Robley in a tournament final on June 25th, 1988 in Columbus, Georgia. The first Southern Tag Team Champions were crowned in a tournament final in that same year in Macon when Wildfire Tommy Rich and Ted Oates defeated Bob Orton Jr. and Dirty Dick Slater. The show was taped mostly at Miss Kitty's in Marietta, as well as occasional shows at the Memorial Gym in Rome, Georgia. Given the constraints of the NWA territory system, with the Southeast controlled by Jim Crockett Promotions and the national expansion of the World Wrestling Federation now in full swing, there was little opportunity for Southern Championship Wrestling to develop a larger territory of its own. The promotion was mostly limited to Southern Georgia areas, with regular shows in cities such as Alpharetta, Atlanta, Columbus, Griffin, Macon, Marietta, Georgia. Most of its television tapings took place at Gordon Clement's Alpharetta Auction Barn. Boy, that's a lot of words there. And Miss Kitty's Saloon in Marietta. Within the first 3 weeks, Southern Championship Wrestling was running between 5 and 7 shows every 2 weeks and sold out shows in Marietta at least 2 occasions. With Blackwell's connections to the AWA and to a certain extent various NWA members, the promotion sported one of the top rosters in Georgia Independent. Austin Idol, Akio Soto, Bob Orton Jr., David Sammartino, Doug Summers, Manny Fernandez, Boris Zukov was among the AWA veterans who appeared for the promotion, in addition to wrestlers from Central States and Mid-South territories.
Other stars included Outlaw Joel Deaton, Nick, how do you say that? His name, Jack?
Busick,
Ranger Ross, Joey Maggs. I always liked Joey Maggs.
A great guy.
Yeah. And Thunder and Lightning, Steve Lawler and Dino Manelli. Southern Championship Wrestling held the distinction of airing some of Bruiser Brody's final television matches before his 1988 murder in Puerto Rico. Southern Championship Wrestling television footage was used on Pro Wrestling This Week's Bruiser Brody tribute show that fall. Terry Funk, the Von Erich family, also made appearances on early TV tapings. Southern Championship Wrestling also had important backstage and on-air personality. Big Bill Drummo was introduced as the figurehead president. Randy P. Wee Anderson was one of his referees. Rhubarb Jones, a popular morning radio DJ in Atlanta, and Joe Pedicino served as announcers and were later joined by Rick Stewart from Central States Wrestling. A 22-year-old Paul Heyman, who was also working for Windy City Wrestling in Chicago, appeared as Paul E. Dangerously, alongside the original Midnight Express, Dennis Condrey, and Randy Rose. Before moving on to World Championship Wrestling, the feud with Jim Cornette and the new Midnight Express, Bobby Eaton and Stan Lane. I don't think they called them the new Midnight Express, did they?
Yeah.
I didn't think they did. Most important, Buck Robley returned to pro wrestling after 4-year absence to become the promotion's booker. Southern Championship Wrestling also marked the final appearance of longtime NWA star Mr. Wrestling 2, who feuded with Robley before retiring in 1989. The feud began with Robley's surprise debut in the promotion by having himself sealed in a wooden crate. By the way, Buck Robley used that about 22 times in his booking. A wooden crate and delivered it to the ring while Mr. Wrestling 2 was being interviewed by Joe Pedicino. By the way, that is available on YouTube if you'd like to watch it. When the masked wrestler investigated the box, he was attacked by Robley. As booker, Robley introduced other creative ideas, such as a $10,000 slam battle royal held at the Marietta Civic Center.
SCW's talent pool and popular television program, in addition to limited national exposure via Pedicino's Pro Wrestling This Week, saw the promotion quickly rise to the top of the Georgia independent circuit. The number one outlaw promotion at the time was Jody Hamilton's Deep South Wrestling out of Marietta. Hamilton and his training facility had a working relationship with Jim Crockett Promotions and enjoyed the use of its stars. On the independent scene, both promotions competed for talent and shared many of the same wrestlers. Mr. Wrestling 2, for example, jumped back and forth between SCW and DSW during this time period. Within 2 months of SCW's debut, Dave Meltzer's Wrestling Observer was reporting a major war between the two organizations. Deep South Wrestling ran on Channel 69, which was a competitor against the station that aired Pedicino's Pro Wrestling This Week. The rival station had created its own Saturday night wrestling block to compete directly with Pedicino's show, but failed to challenge him in the ratings. For this and other reasons, such as Pedicino airing SCW programming, he and his co-host, Bonnie Blackstone, were drawn into the Blackwell-Hamilton War. In February of 1988, DSW parodied Pedicino and Blackstone on its television program with the following skit. They made fun of Joe Pedicino and Bonnie Blackstone. They did a skit with a guy in an easy chair pretending to be Pedicino, but getting stuck in his chair and needing help to get out. Blackstone was parodied as a total bimbo. Southern countered by showing a clip of the invader versus the assassin, with Pedicino saying, "This is the Puerto Rican assassin, because there is nobody named the assassin in the United States that can wrestle." A dig at Jody Hamilton, the group's headliner.
You know, I never knew this happened.
I didn't
never
either.
knew they were doing this. Crazy. All right, Rodney.
All right. Southern Championship Wrestling also poked fun at Crockett Promotion on occasion. In an appearance by Michael Hayes of the Fabulous Rebirths, he joked with Southern Championship Wrestling crowd, the NWA may be the major league, but their checks are minor league. The year-long rivalry between Southern Championship Wrestling and Deep South Wrestling ended when, following an in-ring injury, Hamilton sold off the promotion in 1988. Blackwell continued to operate SCW throughout the steady decline of the National Wrestling Alliance. By the end of the decade, however, the NWA decades-old territory system had ended, while the WWF came dominant in the U.S. wrestling industry. Losing interest in the promotion, Blackwell decided to close down Southern Championship Wrestling in early 1990s. it was the last ever territory era promotion to run in the state of Georgia. Georgia All-Star Wrestling came shortly after Jerry Blackwell pulled out. Joe Pedicino decided to continue by himself. In May 1990, the promotion was relaunched as Georgia All-Star Wrestling. Through no longer having access to AWA talent, Pedicino was able to bring in former wrestlers from Jim Crockett Promotions as an announcer for the promotion. For future WCW stars, with star Marcus Bagwell made his debut in the promotion under the name Fabian. He was also able to retain some of the other Southern Championship Wrestling former Georgia area stars. These were mostly independent wrestlers such as Jimmy Holiday, Tony Zane, Billy Starr, John Michaels, Joel Deaton, Nick Busick, and Steve the Brawler Lawler.
In early 1990, Pedicino hired Scott Hudson and Steve Prazak as announcers for the promotion. I remember seeing those shows. According to Hudson, in an interview, both men had been fans of pro wrestling this week and impressed Pedicino when they volunteered to replace the regular announcer following a poor performance at the Georgia All-Star Wrestling Show in Carrollton, Georgia. Initially working without pay, they were eventually hired full-time. With their experience and ready on television, they became valuable members of the promotion. Pedicino continued running Georgia All-Star Wrestling until 1991, when he and former USWA Commissioner Max Andrews decided to start a new promotion called the Global Wrestling Federation in Dallas, Texas. And we'll talk about the Global Wrestling Federation in another video. Guys, what do you think about Jimmy Powell had something to do with, and he's never mentioned in any story, but he was a big part of Southern Championship Wrestling, was he not?
He and Ted were the Nightmares,
right?
Tag team in there. So yeah, he was there quite a bit.
So and Ted Allen is not even mentioned, and he was there so many times. There was other people that did not get mentioned in that story as well. But we watched part of Southern Championship Wrestling, and I always enjoyed it. Now, the Miss Kitties was kind of weird watching.
Yeah,
Miss Kitties.
It was not a good setup. I went to the Alpharetta tapings a few times, and that was a much better facility. It was hot, but it was better than Miss Kitties, I thought.
Because didn't Mike Golden also wrestle for that company as well? I don't know if I think they did say Steve Lawler was in there. Mm-hmm. Great talent, really. And they drew great houses for that time period, because at the same time in 1988, USA Championship Wrestling was not drawn that well. Continental Championship Wrestling was not drawn very well. So they were doing very well for that time period. So Southern Championship Wrestling. Okay, let's move on to Pro Wrestling USA. Rodney, give me your thoughts on the Pro Wrestling USA, and I'll look up some matches and stuff about it. But give your thoughts about what you thought about it at the time.
Well, I mean, I guess it was a good concept. The main purpose to compete with Vince McMahon was, that wasn't thought out properly. You never open up a company with your main purpose is to compete with somebody else. You should be able, your main purpose of creating a company, what should be to provide the best product you possibly can for the wrestling fans. And anytime you're out to be, just a competitor of somebody else, it never works out. It doesn't matter who you are. It never works out. And that's my opinion. And in the end, it falls all to pieces. Doesn't last long at all. And it's because I'm assuming that the partners, one didn't like the idea of working with each other, and it fell all to pieces. So,
Jack, your thoughts on Pro Wrestling USA?
I just happened to watch the spectacular story of the AWA on the WWE Network on Peacock just the other day, and they covered a good bit of this. And basically my feeling about this was, again, just like Rodney said, you can't join together to try to put somebody else out. It just doesn't work. And you're talking about promotions that had coexisted to a degree for years, but the reason that they haven't come together before then was because none of them actually wanted to work in conjunction. They wanted their own pie, not a piece of the pie. They wanted their own pie.
Yes.
And even though they saw the need of coming together, that mentality never left them. And Greg Gagne said that he knew this was never going to work when he caught David Crockett trying to hire some of the AWA talent at what was the pay-per-view they all did together?
The Super Clash?
Super Clash 3. And he said he caught them there trying to hire talent away from them. And he said, I knew right then it was never going to work. Of course, then you go into the controversy beyond that of the fact that Vern kept all the money from that. Nobody ever got paid. Jerry Lawler was cemented as the world champion, AWA champion, but that was also his last appearance because he said to this day, has never gotten paid for that and still has the original belt in his possession. So
can't blame him for keeping it.
Oh, no. But there was just a lot of discord, from my understanding, Vern never liked Southern wrestling. So, why he wanted to do a promotion that featured Southern wrestling, I don't know.
Well, what is so amazing about this is that Jerry Lawler and Jerry Jarrett talked them into actually doing the first show in Memphis.
Yeah.
That's what made this so, why would they want to compete against WWE but run in Memphis, Tennessee?
Yeah.
Was that just to help Memphis?
I don't know if it was to help Memphis. It may have just been a test run, to see if things would work. So
let me read just a little bit of what I found out about a little bit about it. It said Pro Wrestling USA was a professional wrestling promotion in the United States of America in the mid-1980s. It was an attempt to unify various federations, including Jim Crockett Promotions, the AEWA, and other members in the NWA. And as Richard Hood, one of our insider nation, he said by 1984, Vince McMahon began moves to take the World Wrestling Federation national and bought out Georgia Championship Wrestling. That was in total disregard to the NWA and its territorial system. Vince now had the national TBS time slot, and we all know how that went. That was horrible. It said, despite this move being very unsuccessful, McMahon was able to air the historic War to Settle the Score and Brawl to End It All wrestling cards on MTV, which I think were very successful for Vince McMahon. Am I right about this?
Yeah.
Yes.
In addition, McMahon also still the most recognizable wrestling industry, Hulk Hogan. Now, I'm not for certain that is a true statement. I'm not for sure Hulk Hogan was recognized at the time as the most recognized. I think he became most recognizable, but I would still probably think Dusty Rhodes was probably more recognizable in 1984. What do you guys think?
Yes.
Yeah,
absolutely. Because it really, Hogan didn't really reach his pinnacle, I don't think, until WrestleMania 3. So that was 87, right?
I think it was. In a bid to counter the new threat, various promoters across America decided to co-promote wrestling shows. So here we go. First attempt, Jerry Lawler, Jerry Jarrett, later one of the promoters behind the NWA TNA is what the story says. Vern Gagne of the AWA, the CWA, Ole Anderson of GCW, Jim Crockett Promotions, and other NWA promoters got together to co-promote wrestling shows nationally. This joint venture became known as Pro Wrestling USA. This loose alliance of promoters. Now, you got to remember that word loose is very, from across America, was served to act as a national federation. Pro Wrestling USA shows could boast, for example, AWA and NWA world title bouts on the same card. While at the behest of Jerry Lawler and Jerry Jarrett, the first show took place in Memphis, Tennessee. Pro Wrestling USA shows were promoted across the members' territories. Further, many Pro Wrestling USA shows were taped in East Rutherford, New Jersey, the heart of the former WWF territory. Now, I can see that happening. This was a serious attempt to undermine the WWF in its home turf at a moment of financial weakness. The peak of Pro Wrestling USA came in Super Clash. This is what they drew. And I did not know this, but they drew over 21,000 people for the first Super Clash. In Comiskey, is that how you say that?
Kaminsky.
On September 29th, 1985, the card was headlined, and you can watch this. I think it's available on YouTube. I think you went Ric Flair versus Magnum PA for the NWA title, which was a very good match, plus Rick Martel versus Stan Hansen for the AWA title. The arrangement, however, would only remain existent for a few more months. Arguments between promoters, primarily Gagne and Crockett, because Jim Crockett wanted, just like Jack was talking about, Jim Crockett wanted to run the world, and he didn't want help from anybody. Crockett opted to leave the group, and within months, Pro Wrestling Shows would simply repackage AWA programs. Jim Crockett Promotions would expand nationally by itself and eventually be sold to Ted Turner. Nearly a decade after Pro Wrestling USA, WCW would eventually overtake the WWF in ratings. They would eventually do that. But there was a second attempt in 1988, and we remember this very, very vividly. In 1988, 3 of the Pro Wrestling USA federations made a second attempt to unify their federations. The second attempt would be made between Fritz Von Erichs, World Class Championship Wrestling, Jerry Jarrett, CWA, and CWF and AWA. Rodney, you remember this because yes. David Woods was sent something for him to sign and to pay a little bit of the money for this. Am I correct?
That is correct. And that was one of the first things we did when me and Dad, I should say Dad, went there, and I went with him. And we're sitting there, we're watching this video, and he asked us asked Dad what he thought, and then asked me what I thought. I said, "There's no way I'd put myself in that." I said, they're not using any of our talent from there, but they want to promote their show on our TV show. And I said, there's no way. There's no way. He said, well, I've already signed the deal. I said, well, I wouldn't have signed that. I said, that was that to want to use your show to promote their show, basically, and to basically say that none of your talent is worth being on the show. No way. Absolutely no way. It makes you look small. And that was our conversation about Super Clash 3. I hate to be right about everything, as you know, and I was on that one because they had the audacity to send David Woods a bill for that show. And they asked Dad what he was. They asked Dad what he would do with that bill. He said, "I'd tear it up and throw it in the garbage." Exactly what I would do.
It did not last. We all know that did not last. It did pretty bad. I think it was Super Clash 3, I believe, was what that might have been. Pay-per-view. Pro Wrestling USA just did not work. Here is one of the first cards. This is one of the first cards they had, and this was their television show. The Rock and Roll Express, Ricky Morton and Robert Gibson defeated the Nightmares, Danny Davis and Ken Wayne, which I think Danny Davis and Ken Wayne at the time was working for Jerry Jarrett. Butch Reed and Tony Atlas defeated Keith Roberson and Kurt Von Hess. AWA World Tag Team titles, the Road Warriors, Animal and Road Warrior Hawk, went against Ken Raper and Mark Reagan. Nick Bockwinkel defeated Lanny Poffo, which Lanny Poffo was wrestling for Jerry Jarrett. Jerry Lawler, Tommy Rich defeated the Dirty White Boys. Mr. Saito with Jimmy Hart defeats Tracy Smothers. Rick Martel defeats Eddie Gilbert. And in 3 minutes and 32 seconds, Rick Martel. But there were 25 matches on this first show. 25 matches. How long was they there for 25 matches?
Well, if we're talking about Jerry Lawler putting together matches, each match 3 minutes, they were gone out there 2 hours.
And most of them might have been walk and talk. So
yes, yes. Pull my hair, or you've got a foreign object. Yes.
By that time, that's what he was doing. The majority of his match as world champion, he was actually doing that. And then they wonder why it didn't last. This is the thing about Pro Wrestling USA. They absolutely did nothing, though. If you go back and watch some of their shows, there was nothing ever done. Wrestling always drew based on character versus character. I know people don't like that word in the wrestling business, but let's just say wrestler versus wrestler. And one wrestler against another wrestler. And that's how it did. And they really didn't do that. And I don't think that Jerry Lawler and they were trying to push Jerry Lawler more than anybody on this program. And I don't know that that worked for them because Jerry Lawler wasn't known everywhere but in Memphis, Tennessee. That was one of the problems I think they were having. Jerry Lawler was on the top, and he was not the person should be. The Road Warriors should have been the people that was on the top. There should have been the ones being pushed, but there was only so much you could do with the Road Warriors. You know, you weren't going to beat them. So what were you going to do with them? Because they were an attraction that drew, so you weren't going to beat them. Did anybody believe that was ever going to ever work? Did they really believe that? Did any of the promoters believe that was ever going to work, or did they think they was going to get their hands in it and they could all take it themselves?
They actually thought that they would walk in and they would eventually take it over. That's exactly what they thought.
Yeah.
You know, never worked. And Vince McMahon knew that. One thing that people probably miss on is Vince McMahon is not the person who knew the promoters. Jim Barnett was the person that knew the promoters, and he knew everything about those promoters, and he knew whether or not they could work together. Jim Barnett, I know, had to sit back and go, nothing but a thing. He said they'll be through in no time. He said they'll never work with each other, and he knew it. I don't believe that Vince McMahon would ever been successful at becoming what he became if it wasn't for Jim Barnett. I think that was the person who pushed him to the top. All right. We've talked about Pro Wrestling USA. Not a lot to talk about. They didn't have that many shows. They did successful in some of the shows, but not tremendous business was done on these shows. And even if they did, it wasn't going to ever. Stuart Kemp said the Mask healed Michael Barr. Yes.
All right.
Any relation? Michael Barr said any relation to Marcus Bagwell? Yes. That was Marcus Alexander Bagwell. Now, the first time I ever saw him, I didn't see him then. I saw him on the Global Wrestling Federation, and he would give people flowers.
The handsome stranger.
The handsome stranger.
Yes. Did he wear a
yes,
like the
mask
as well?
Yeah.
Well, now Michael's asking if he was kin to Crusher Blackwell.
I got it.
It's Bagwell. There's two different names. Close, I guess, but
That's right.
different.
Charles said, no, let's not. He's
Okay.
talking about, I guess I'm not for sure what he no, not to. Aaron is with us as well. How you doing, Aaron? Michael Barr said, hello, insiders. Richard Hood said, just checked in, fellows. Richard, we're talking about Pro Wrestling USA. Not a lot to talk about unless somebody knows something we don't. We just remember we were there at the time and we thought, man, this is never going to work.
No,
We knew wrestling promoters and you just wasn't going to happen. Stuart Kemp said, reminds me of Saturday Night Live Chucking Tales. Patrick Summers. That was fun.
Yeah.
Richard Hood said they also taped at the Henderson Arena. That was a huge place. Did y'all ever go to the Henderson?
Yes. Yes. In fact, I think I saw a show from there not too terribly long ago that was just posted on YouTube.
Did you
Yeah,
ever
that
go
was a
back
huge-
to the Henderson Arena?
I did.
That thing was huge.
Yep.
You had to just put it in one little section of that building.
I was going to say the reason I remember it is because we were in just one little corner. It only drew about maybe 250,
Yeah.
this huge building.
Yeah, this place was huge. I bet that thing held 10,000 people.
Oh yeah.
Oh, easy.
It was huge, and the rent was pretty reasonable there too.
It's like that international ballroom.
Michael Barr asked whatever happened to Rick Stewart that accommodated with Charlie Platt. He passed away.
Yes.
Very good guy though, very nice man, and was very good at what he did. There's no doubt. Richard Hood. I don't know if you discussed it or not, but Jerry Blackwell was part of that promotion. Are we talking about we're talking about Southern Championship Wrestling? I'm guessing, Richard. Let's see. Richard Hood, I loved Superstars of Wrestling, WATL 36 from 8 p.m. to 2 p.m. But you know what? I think it hurt Atlanta to be able to draw because people could sit and watch wrestling. We actually was part of a Continental Championship Wrestling at the time, and we went to Marietta. Did all right, but nothing spectacular. No big time business. It never did tremendous, But now I will tell you this: we didn't believe that the show should be sent to Joe Pedicino. We wanted the show not to be sent. Was this, it was their thought process that he was making money off of Continental Championship Wrestling. And I think Jerry Lawler even didn't want the show sent there. He said that he didn't think and we were actually going to get on WSB Channel 2. Is that and that's in Atlanta, right?
That's right.
We had worked it out, and we were going to go on Channel 2. We had talked to the people in Continental Championship Wrestling. We were going to move over there. For whatever reason, that's right when Ron Fuller and everybody was selling, and there was somebody that bought it, and then that person didn't work out, and then Ron took it back, and then David Woods bought it. Just a total disaster, as we like to call it. Where was Southern Championship Wrestling mainly based? I guess Marietta, right? Stone Mountain, Georgia. I guess that's where he lived. Remember Samuel O. Kent and his puppet? What?
Yeah, that was the Northwest Georgia Wrestling out of Rome. They had a show, and Sammy Kent was I think he was the promoter. But he hosted the show also, and he had a puppet. I don't remember the puppet's name.
Oh, man. New Jack got to start with the promotion. Yes, I remember seeing New Jack on there. That's where Jim Cornette found him, and he sent him over there. Disco Inferno got a start with that promotion as well.
Yeah, I will never forgive him for that.
Yes, I remember the puppet too. I don't remember this. I'm glad I didn't see that because I wouldn't have liked that at all. That seems kind of crazy. Dan Lane. Did Tommy Rich not get along with the Crockett? No, he did not get along with the Crockett, but Crockett didn't get along with him either. So he barely ever appeared for them, and it seems he would have been a big draw for them on WTBS 85 or 86. They had heard about Tommy. They had heard about the stuff that he had done. So know that he went to Ohio, and he would mess up rental cars and motels, so they just didn't want him to be part of their company. But he didn't show up until Turner bought the company. Yes, he did show up then, and that was Ole Anderson. Dad thought that he could be a big star for him, and he probably could have been again. There's no doubt about that. He probably could have been. New Jack and Festus were tag team partners there with that promotion. Are we talking about the guy from that works in AEW now?
Billy Starr was Festus.
Billy Starr? All right.
Yep.
Remember Tommy Rich and the motorcycle guys? Yes, I remember that too. Went to Riverdale, Georgia, and those guys with them, and they told me this deal is if you ever need any assistance, here's our card. Get in touch with us. Mr.
Donnie. I talked to Mr. Donnie last year.
Yeah, I enjoy that. Very nice people. Very nice people. Michael Barr, Jack is going to have nightmares punting at me being a heel. Payback, Jack. Richard Hood, Tommy turned on Scott Armstrong in that promotion. I said that. I bet they had some good matches.
Yeah,
those were great matches. Michael Barr, was there a third promotion that could have stayed with WWF? No,
not at that time.
No. Richard Hood, Rodney and the promoters got together because Vince was taking their talent. Well, they wouldn't have to take their talent if it paid them.
Yep.
Because Vince did not give you a guarantee. Mm-mm. But what people knew is they could draw money. The problem is Crockett kept Dusty Rhodes around way too long. Dusty should have been booking for about 2 years, and they should have got rid of him. They didn't have to get rid of him. Didn't have to send them out.
See, my point is that they should not have tried to do the national thing. They maybe kept the national show, but they had bought all those. They bought the Mid-South. They were running in Florida. They could have sent that talent to one of these other divisions, and he could still stay a part of the company, and then a year later come back and had a whole new idea. But they didn't see that. They decided they're going to run the world and do it just like Vince did, and it ended up to their detriment.
Well, they didn't have the people that Vince McMahon had. He was in New York City. He was with all the hobnobbers there. He had the syndication people. He had all that stuff. He had it all lined up where the Crockett's didn't. They didn't have them connections that Vince McMahon, because Vince got the connections through MTV. I mean, that's just all there is to it. He was so successful on MTV that he got all these sponsors that wanted to be a part of wrestling. So Vince did know what he was doing. There's no doubt about that. Sounds mostly accurate. I ran Athens every third Thursday night, and the spot shows there in 1988. We had Rudy Zabrodi the Thursday night before he was killed on Sunday. Blackwell was a good man. Yeah, I talked to Blackwell at the time. We were going to do some stuff with him through Continental Wrestling Federation. We had worked it out with Jimmy Powell and him, and we were going to work out an agreement to where the TV was going to be produced in Montgomery. And we had a whole deal worked out, but it just fell apart. Is it possible that a territory promotion can get as good as big as the territories? Yeah, I think they can. I think it can. I think it would take a while, but I do believe it could be. I think people are ready to see, and it shows. If you look online, you see so many of these independent wrestling companies just drawing tremendous crowds. Look at Wrestle South drawing tremendous crowds. SWE Fury in Texas drawing great crowds. There was one in Georgia, somewhere in Georgia, that just drew tremendous. So yeah, I think it's there. I don't know that you can run every week. I don't know that could happen anymore, because the ticket prices have to be $15 now just to be able to break even. What do you guys think?
Oh, I agree. And I think if any show is going to be successful, they're going to have to get out of their head of being the next WWE. Concentrate on the area that you want to build and stay there and build that area and become a part of that community. We've talked about that so many times. That's what the downfall of Georgia Championship Wrestling was. They forgot about their fan base. They left that loyal fan base behind and started expanding all over the place. And it didn't work. Even in the process of them doing it, it wasn't working. But you get that ego involved of, oh, I'm going to be the next Vince McMahon. Well, I wouldn't want to be the next Vince McMahon.
No.
And from what we're doing in Lafayette, all we're wanting to do is do Lafayette. But we want to have the best show that Lafayette's ever had. And there's been some darn good shows there. I've done a few.
Yeah.
So, but we're just trying to up the game to stay there. Not saying we might not do some other stuff here and there, but we ain't going far.
No. No, we're not heading to California anytime soon.
Well, and I had this discussion with the owner at Wrestle South. Is he was talking about, well, I want to start running 3 shows a week eventually, and all. And I said, that's great. I think we can do it. I'm not going, but I can book a show from my recliner. I don't have to be physically there.
Yeah.
And Vince doesn't make all the towns. And most promoters didn't make all the towns. So I'm not going to. I'd like to see stuff grow, and I want to see a territory system come back. I just don't want to have to be at every show to make that work.
Yeah, that's Richard Hood said, I heard Jerry Jarrett. I don't think Jerry Jarrett had anything to do with the money. I think it was all Vern Gagne.
No, it was all Vern.
I don't think he had I think he ran it all. So now probably the first Memphis show, Jarrett probably kept all the money. So that's the reason Vern kept it.
And all those super class shows are available on the WWE Network at Peacock.
Let's see. It became an issue with who was going to book the talent. I could see that. And who was going to over. I probably had a lot of DQs in that thing.
Yeah.
Michael Barr, so they needed a booker. Yes. They needed one person to run it, and that wasn't going to happen.
Yeah.
Charles said Blackwell brought in Luna. I remember sitting in the back and telling her about the matches her father, Butcher Fashawn, wrestled in Georgia in the 60s. I was a little older than her. By the way, Charles, is the J&J Center still in Athens? Is it still there? I always enjoyed going to that place, but boy, it was scary going to the restroom. It was dark back there. Michael, there were 3 different promotions with there are bookers on each one of them wanting to book with their own talent. Yes. Nice belt behind you there, Rodney. Yes, that is the championship wrestling belt that we got for Lafayette. Let's see. Michael Barr. Rodney, do you know? Rodney, wait a minute. Rodney, you do know I think I'm often right, only to find that I was wrong on quite a few occasions.
Well, on that particular Super Brawl 3, I was right on. I just tell you right now. I guarantee you I turned about 3 shades of red during that conversation. I bet you've never seen that on here before.
I was more a fan either of Vern Gagne or announcer Larry Nelson. Now, I didn't like Larry Nelson. Did y'all like Larry Nelson?
No.
I thought he was horrible.
Very kind of an abrasive personality, too.
Yeah, Stuart Kim did that. Richard Hood, there were too many headstrong promoters. Yeah, you couldn't use all them guys. They all thought they were smart anyway. Every one of them. Jerry Jarrett thought he was tremendous, and he was so smart. And Jim Crockett thought he was smart. Vern Gagne thought they were smart. There was no way them 3 people were going to. You would have put Bill Watts in there. That you would have really had some bad blood going on. I think Bill Watts by that time had sold his.
Yeah, he was out.
I think he had sold it, so he was already out. But Brent, Jack, and Rodney, was it Paul Levesque? Is that how you say?
Levesque.
Married Stephanie and Shane that helped Vince with the WWE. Yeah, but he didn't marry Shane, I don't think. I don't think that went on, but they could have.
No, I have heard it said that Vince was already grooming him to be in the position he was in. The Stephanie thing just kind of, I guess, sealed the deal in a way of making them even closer. But he saw the potential there, and I think Paul had long been lobbying to learn how to do things behind the scenes. So, and I think I've got a lot of admiration for Paul. Everybody knows, I'm a huge NXT fan. And, and that is his brainchild. And he puts a lot of love and attention into that product, and it shows.
Stuart Kemp said he donated a shirt. I donated a shirt mailed to me by Bonnie Blackstone to the Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame. I was living in Canada at the time, and I got a tape from Bill Apter. I enjoyed watching pro wrestling this week, though. I always liked the show. I thought it was very good. I think Les Thatcher was the first person that was going to do that because he sent us a tape one time, and he was going to do a pro wrestling this week type of show. I still have that tape somewhere that Les sent. Here's a card at 10-69. Sheik versus Mark Lewin, Bobo Brazil versus Guy Mitchell, Hell's Angel versus the Scuffling Hillbillies, Killer Carl Cox versus Ben Justice, Thunderbolt Patterson versus Jack Armstrong, Mike Lowry versus Dan Miller. Good card. Great card in 1969. Aaron, this is right. Moving to Dallas and neglecting the Carolinas on the big events had to hurt. Yes, I think it was stupidity.
Yep.
Yes.
Stay in your own territory. If he would have stayed in his territory, he'd probably still be in business. Yeah. They running the world it cost a lot of money to run the world. Plus, Dusty talking them into buying planes wasn't too good.
Yeah, and I forgot who. It might have been Tully Blanchard. I was watching an interview, and he was talking about they were still doing good business in the Carolinas, but the profits they were making they were blowing trying to run Nevada and California, and because Crockett wanted that image maintained, especially with the Horsemen. So they had private jets. They had those $1,000 a night hotel rooms that Crockett was paying for. Unlimited bar tabs, the whole 9 yards. He said we were doing what we were told, but he said we were blowing more money than they could possibly be making.
Yeah, that was ridiculous. Vern was able to run one of the shows from that promotion in Vince's backyard in New York. And Vern would have probably been all right to running against him. He was right there, so it wouldn't have been so bad for him. But Vince would grab at the talent when they were in an angle drawing money. Well, that was their fault. They should have made sure they were under contract. I mean, they knew Vince was giving contracts, not that he was giving money contracts. Now, he was putting people on a contract.
Vern tried. The only person that I've ever heard of, the only person he ever tried to put in a contract was Hogan. But in doing that, he wanted 50% of what he was making in Japan and 50% of all his T-shirt sales. And Hogan was smart enough to know, hey, that ain't, no, I'm not doing that. So, he made the call or got the call from Vince around the same time. And so it was an easy decision for him.
The building is there in Athens, but it's been several bars since 1993. That I always enjoyed going there. I just remember Snake Brown being there almost every Thursday night when we were there. I always, he's breaking my arm, referee. Just remember that every time. I meant Shane being Stephanie's brother, not that he was. I know. I was just playing with you, Michael. I got that. Stardust is what Aaron Stardust won. Whatever it is.
I think Michael's mask might have slid down over his eyes while he was typing.
That's right.
I want to thank each and every one of our insiders for being a part of this. It's Insider Nation. For those of you who are watching this on YouTube, to be part of the Insider Nation, you actually go to our Facebook page, hit Become a Supporter, and you become a supporter, and then we give you all the information you need, and you can be a part of what we're doing here. We thank you so much. Everybody that supports our channel, everybody that watches our stuff, we certainly do appreciate it. And just tell people about it. Let everybody know about pro wrestling inside and out. Jack, any final comments before we leave?
Again, appreciate all you folks. Look forward to talking to you next week.
Rodney?
We'll see you next week.
We'll see everybody next week. Thank you all so much, and we'll just close it as you'll see. We do not have an opening anymore, so we'll just close it with a video that we got for that'll be on our website soon.